Welcome everybody to my build video for a very different sort of build by my standards. Now this is pretty much the peak of gank experience. This is a gank build, definitely, okay? It's got low recovery, insane burst damage. Now there are a lot of gank builds out there. Every single one I've seen so far is using some sort of proc or other or close to it. What this build does that other builds don't is, firstly, it doesn't rely on procs, and secondly, it makes no difference whether I hit a heavy armor or a light armor target. None at all. So, quickly before I make the video, we're going to use Q-Bound here as an example. We're going to buff everything up. He can buff his resistances up. It does not matter. We're going to put our buffs up real quick here, and we'll go over this stuff in a sec. We're going to get the sneak bonus. We're then going to pop Mage Light like so. Now, remember, he is on 31.8k health right now. That is a lot of health, okay? This is very hard to kill, but we're going to show you what it does. So, we're going to pop the pot for Alchemist, Mage Light. We're going to go in with a cloak. We're going to go in, and we're going to do that. And that's the end of that. This is how hard this build hits, guys. It is insane. That was a one-shot for 35k on a heavy armor 31k health target. I mean, it is insane damage. There is nothing to compare to this shit. That was actually my new record, by the way, guys. Just gonna throw that in there. I don't know how I hit so high there. It's normally around like 30, 32k. If they're very high stacked into crit resistant hardy, you're probably gonna hit as low as 25k. That is why we do have execution on just as an emergency. So here we go, guys. The sets and the stats. Stats. Buffed up, we are looking at around about, as he waits for his Alchemist proc. It's coming any second, let's pop it up. Buffed up with the Sword Singer set included, we are around about weapon damage enchant on top, 6k weapon damage, okay? The weapon damage enchant proc is not that much, so you're looking around 5.6, 5.7k with one of the sets that does not show on the tooltip. Max stamina is 35k, max health in a fight is about 26k, and max magic of 15k. Recoveries, bare minimum, it doesn't matter, they're dead in one shot anyway, who cares? So damage very high. Crit chance, again, doesn't matter because we are guaranteeing that with Cloak. Our sets, we are running 1 Kenner in Divines, 1 Veladrift in Divines if I had it. I don't, so it's reinforced. You could get more damage if you had Divines there. You're then running 5 Sword Singer, and that is on both bars. You're running that on the jewelry and 2 armor pieces, 1, 2. And then 5 Alchemist on a 1-hand shield bar or a dual bar on the back bar. You have to have a 2-piece there to fit that in. So 1, 2, 3... 4, 5 Divines on all the armor pieces, the shield and the sword, make it whatever. I guess best would be defending and maybe impen or something to keep the survivability up, but I don't have that on me, so yeah. On our other bar, we are running just 4 Alchemists. That is with a Nirnhoned Greatsword, and I will explain the Nirnhoned in a second. It's important that's Nirnhoned, and we're using the Poison enchant just to help get the kill on the burst if needs be. All of our jewelry is enchanted with weapon damage. There's no reason not to. And what the sets do. So Sword Singer is giving us weapon damage on our 200 abilities. That's not only great for our damage combo. Well, I say combo, it's one skill. But it also is increasing our rally heal, which is very handy. We're then running 5 Alchemist. That is obviously a potion to give us a huge amount of burst damage. The best gank set in my opinion. And then we're running 1 Kenner and 1 Veladrift for the weapon damage. Now, a quick tip. If you do have a Nirnhoned Great Sword of Maelstrom, and that is only the Great Sword, you could get a tiny bit more damage. You'd move the Alchemist. You'd run an Alchemist Bow instead. A Maelstrom Great Sword, and you'd move that extra Sword Singer piece up onto the... the extra Alchemist piece up onto the armor. So you'd run 4 on the armor and 1 on the weapon on the back bar, and then Maelstrom on the back bar. You'd lose the Veladrift. You'd gain a Nirnhoned 2-hander, which would give you about 80 more weapon damage. But that is only if it's a Nirnhoned Great Sword. You do need the Great Sword for the right passive. So, skills. On our front bar, we are running Camo Hunter. That is only there for the fighter skill passive that I will show you now. This one here gives you extra weapon damage for each slotted. Executioner, that is for if we don't quite get a target, but I'll be honest, almost every time you will get a target. Now, there is a problem with that, which I will explain in a sec, but for the most time, it is kind of important to have that as an emergency. Rally is on our front bar for the extra heal. You could technically back bar that if you had a second 2-hander with the Maelstrom setup. Personally, I think this works out better. With them running Rearmor Trap, again, we're not actually casting that. That is simply to proc the extra weapon damage. And lastly, but not least, Relentless Focus for the extra buff on our damage. That's 8% with Minor Berserk. And at the same time, we're proccing this Assassination passive Hemorrhage, which gives us critical striking 10% more. On the back bar, we are then running Conceal Weapon. That is for movement speed and stealth. Shadow Image for an escape. Cloak for crit damage and guarantee crit and invisibility and escape. Shuffle for survivability. That's pretty interchangeable, same as Image. You could swap those out if you wanted to run something else. I played around a bit with those. And then we're running Radiant Mage Light for the Empower from the Mage Guild skill tree, which is by here, Might of the Guild. Casting it gives you Major Empower 20% for the next 5 seconds. Our ultimate are both bars, and it's important it's both bars just in case you animation cancel with a weapon swap, because otherwise you won't get it back, is Onslaught. Strike an enemy with a vicious blow, dealing 19k physical damage. This attack, and this is the best bit about this build, ignores the target's resistance and grants you physical and spell resistance equal to the amount ignored for 8 seconds. So not only when we get that kill are we getting a good amount of resistance if we kill a heavy armor target, but we're also getting a huge damage ability that they cannot mitigate. There's no mitigating this. The only way to live is have damage shields to prevent a crit, or you have to run a very high health build, and even then Executioner is probably going to kill it. So in this build you will avoid sorcerers, maybe blaze and shield spammers if their shield is up. You could honestly probably kill them without it, but for the most part, guys, you are looking at running against non-shielding targets. Any non-shield target is probably dead. Damage shield is not good. The reason the two-handed ult is on the back bar is the third part of that passive. Killing an enemy with this ability immediately refunds the ultimate cost. Now, if I was to use my ultimate on keep out and weapon swap as I cast it, I am not going to get the ultimate back. Okay, that's the problem. But it's insane. I mean, you could put out such massive damage with this. So, then we go up to our champion points. Oh, actually, I should go on food first. Food, we are using Tri-Food. You could run gold food, but you're going to lose a lot of damage. You're going to cut yourself on the amount of targets. And the whole point of this is to be a tank killer. You want to run Tri-Food because that way you've got a bit of health, a bit of magic cut. You could run Grief Food if you want max damage, but you're not going to have magic cut. It's important to have that magic cut for cloaking all the buffs. You could run this food here. This one here. Magic cut and stamina if you want to have more magic cut, but sacrifice some health. Personally, I think you're only gaining about 300 damage by using this over purple food, so you may as well take the purple food and get the extra health. Our Mundus, by the way, is the Shadow, and we are a vampire for the movement speed and stealth. Shadow is very important for the extra crit damage from stealth. We are guaranteed a crit. It hits hard, guys. It really does. We then go into champion points. So Green Tree, we are running a very peculiar setup in here. 6 in Magician to help keep our magicka relatively stable. 57 only in Warlord. We are not casting any stamina skills, okay? We're only escaping. 22 in Mooncarve for recovery. To be honest, you could even take that down because our recovery is solo in the first place, and 2 in Arcanist. And then a huge chunk, 100 in Tumbling. You just want to get out of there. If you can't get out of there, you're going to die, okay? So it's purely about getting out. You're not going to cast other skills. It is a gank, but it is an insane gank. We then go in the blue tree. Nothing at all in here. Nothing at all in here. The only place we need it is 100 in Mighty and 87 in Precise Strikes to increase that crit damage. Pump up the damage as much as possible, okay?